Good morning. Let me get one of those. You only one of these. Yep. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Eric. I'm one of the technicians here and done a few other jobs also. Today we're going to talk about general maintenance. There's several topics. That's why I handed out these sheets this morning. And we'll just kind of start off and go by this list. Tires. Whether you have a travel trailer or a motorhome, we all have tires. You always want to check the pressure. I would do that before every trip. Also, there's dating of tires. They say at 5 years to get a new set. The other thing about tires is dry rot. The sun, UV rays cause that. Checking for dry rot, most people look at the sidewalls of a tire, and you'll see cracks and crevices where it's dry rotting. Sometimes at 3 years, 2 years. That's why they need to be checked regularly. Most blowouts from dry rot, the dry rot is between the treads. And most people don't look there, but when you're looking for dry rot, be sure and look between the treads. The dry rot will show there before the sidewalls. That's why when you see one blow apart, the whole tread separates. And of course, when it separates, it hits your trailer or motorhome and does the damage. And those of us with fifth wheels or travel trailers, you know the damage a blowout can cause. Again, every 5 years, I would get a new set. And as we're going along through these things, if you have any questions about these subjects, feel free to ask. Tires, another good way to protect them is with a tire cover. And don't forget your spare on the back if you have one. A lot of people recommend putting a black plastic bag over the tire, then putting the tire covers on. That will keep the sun and the UV rays off the tires. It will extend the life of them quite a bit. And that depends on where your unit sits. If it's in the driveway and the door side's in the sun for 6 to 8 hours a day and the other side's never in the sun, there's going to be a difference. Now, motor oil. Whether you have a motorhome or a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, you're going to be pulling the travel trailer with something. That's as important as the camper. Be sure and check your vehicle's motor oil, the tires on it. All the manufacturers have a little different recommendations of how to take care of the motor, what type of oil to use. I like to change about every 3 to 3,500 miles. 3,000, 3,500, somewhere in there. Some people go 5. That just depends on the type of oil. Transmission, always be sure and check the transmission. That when you're especially using a pull vehicle, the transmission is working a little harder than it usually does during the week. So you want to be sure and check the fluids in the transmission. Now, batteries. We all have batteries. Several in motorhomes. The terminals, connections, the top of the batteries. Make sure they're clean. You'll see a little corrosion starting to develop on them. There's cleaners you can spray on them or take a brass brush and clean them. That really helps. That can cause some issues depending on if it's a coach battery or a chassis battery. Check the water levels if your battery is capable of checking the water. Some of them are sealed and you can't. They'll have a little eye that's either green or it'll go black. Corrosion, that's really important. Now, storing your battery. You know, a battery will freeze that is not charged up, and it'll swell and bust, and it's ruined after that. During the winter, if you're not keeping them charged up, some people keep their units charged up. Again, it just depends on how you store them. That battery needs to be charged up or put it in your garage, somewhere it's not going to freeze. And let's see here. That is, yes, sir. Discharge? That depends on the unit. They all have an amp pull, even when you think you've got everything off, you know. Most of these fifth wheels, in a week's time, I would. The chassis batteries. That's just like a vehicle. The only thing about a motorhome is you need to either put a trickle charge on it or keep it cranked. I would think so. Most of the cranking batteries are going to be good until the end of their life. It's the coach batteries that have a constant pull that are going down and coming up. That's the reason why they're marine batteries and chassis batteries are cranking batteries. They're two different types. You have two switches or one? That'll be for the coach batteries, to disconnect your coach batteries. Yes, ma'am. But the chassis battery would still be on, which shouldn't be an issue. That'll pull from the chassis side. It can also come off of the, you got a jump switch in motorhomes to jump the chassis battery from the coach batteries. So with a motorhome, there's several options to get one cranked. Any other questions on batteries? Yes, sir. It wouldn't hurt. It'd be easier though to take the battery out for the winter on a travel trailer. But if you got it in a spot where you can plug it up, that would help. Again, unless you have a disconnect, which you can buy disconnects and even put them on travel trailer. If you got a voltmeter, check it and see. A marine battery will discharge even with nothing on it. It's a small discharge, but it will. Temperatures like this really seem to take a toll on them if they're a little bit weak too. Yes, sir. It wouldn't hurt a thing. It sure wouldn't. In the spring, there's several battery replacements that occur, just from freezing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure does. He asked if he could plug his camper up, about for a day, once a week, or once every 2 weeks, if that would save his battery. Man, as I told him, if that's a spot where he can do that, but it's still going to be a pull. He does happen to have a disconnect, which he can use, but it's a lot easier just to stick it in the garage. Save you $100 come spring. Yours, once a month, yours gets a good workout. I can't promise you. I can't promise you that, but yeah, campers. Yeah, with yes, ma'am. You have an excellent program going with yours. You're doing about everything you can, but covered storage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions on the batteries? All right, we go to holding tanks. The holding tanks. Drain and fill with several gallons of water and add a bit of bleach to kill bacteria or a RV safe sanitizer product. Now what they're talking about there is the fresh water tank. A lot of people say, well, I never use it. Where I go, I hook up to city water. That's still part of your camper. You need to use that system. And even if you don't use your freshwater holding tank, fill it up, drain it, fill it up with a little sanitizer. We carry 2 products back here. I like to use these little drop-in tabs. Fill it up. Each one of these does up to 15 gallons. Then follow the directions, and that will keep your fresh tank and the water lines from the fresh tank to the water pump cleaned out and where you can use the tank. The black tanks, gray tanks. A lot of the units now have a black tank flushers built in. If it doesn't, these little wands right here are great. We all use a black tank additive. At the end of the season, or you can do it after every camping trip if you'd like. This really helps keeping your monitor panels reading correctly. This is for the black tank. It just drops straight down into the commode. Before you put it up every year, I would highly recommend doing this. It really helps. Gray tank, fill it up, and I like to put a product called New Gen in it and dump it out before winter. That'll keep an odor. Sometimes you might notice a little odor when you come in your camper. That's from the tanks. Mm-hmm. Well, I usually don't leave the drains open and do my winterization. Some antifreeze is going to run. Those tanks are going to drain. Some antifreeze is going to run out. Then shut them. And then on the gray tank, I like to put in about a double shot of New Gen, and then just a little bit of water behind it. In the holding tanks, you're not going to have a problem of like a hot water heater freezing. The tanks will expand, and unless they're totally full of water, they're not going to bust. So a little bit of water in the holding tanks is not going to hurt a thing. The hot water heater? Yes, ma'am. Well, that's what we're fixing to do next. Any questions on the holding tanks? The toilet one? This has made it just drop straight down into the toilet. This end right here, and it has a little spinner on it, and it just sprays water around and round and round. And you can kind of work it around in there, and it'll clean the jets, the monitors. This is what you want. This is well worth the money there. $30. Yeah, when we have some warranty work issues come up, my monitor panel's not reading right, the first thing is technicians do on a newer one is get that tool right there. It'll make a big difference in helping keeping that black system clean and operating correctly. Yeah. Yeah, if you can plan it where you're camping at and you're at a full hookup, you know, you have a sewer and you're totally hooked up, that's plan a trip where you can do that at the last of the season, and you can do your winterization, you can do it all right there, and you've got a full hookup, then carry the thing home. Yeah, that's a good way to do your maintenance on some things that you can't do at home. Yeah. Yeah, yours probably has a built-in one of those. Now the built-in flushers, always be sure that the valve on the black tank is open before you cut it on. It will bust the tank. We've had that happen with a couple of customers. Alright, hot water heaters. Should be drained when not in use. If a hot water heater is sitting full of water, especially in the summertime, the water gets stagnant and it starts to smell, and it will get in the whole water system, and it's a job to get that odor out. Like the best way to not have that happen, drain the hot water heater if you're not using it. Before you leave the campground, just go ahead and pop the pop-off valve, take the plug out. It'll save you a lot of hassles, and again, keep your water system nice and fresh. Check your anode rod if you have one. Some people have a plastic plug. Some people have, I don't have one up here, have an anode rod, which is a plug about that long. When it starts looking like a piece of coral from the ocean, it's time to get another one. And that's what it'll look like when it's time to. If it's just a little bitty rod sticking out there, you need to get another tool. There's a little tool made to clean out the hot water heaters from the sediment, that comes from that rod. Reason being is that's a steel tank. The one with the plastic plug is an aluminum tank. Aluminum doesn't rust, steel will. So, and also while you're there, your valves, you'll see the gas valve, odd looking thing that comes around towards the bottom, and the burner tube assembly. Kind of vacuum that out. Keep that clean. Also, bug screens. That's one place for a bug screen. For those of you who know me, I highly recommend the bug screens. They'll save you a lot of headaches. They're made for the hot water heater, the refrigerator, and the furnace. Dirt daubers and wasps cause I can't tell you how many work orders we do a year because of dirt daubers and wasps. Yes, sir. The little orifice tube in the gas hot water heater and the refrigerator, both, we do see that some. But it's the smell of propane is what I've been told that attracts the wasps and the dirt daubers. And they do. In a unit that's 4 or 5 years old, when we pull the refrigerator out, you'll be amazed. Even everybody says, oh, I don't have dirt daubers. Yeah, you do. But the roof vent is the odd looking bottom of a boat thing on the top of your camper. That's the top vent for your refrigerator. You know, they come up underneath there, and there is a screen by the factory put up there. But they do cause a lot of damage. But yes, sir. Yeah, like I say, for those of you who know me, that and those Max Air covers, everybody ought to have them. They'll save you tons of headaches and money. Now, yes, sir. Well, there's a screen up there. When you pop that roof vent off, you'll see them where they try to get in up there. There's 4 screws up there, and you'll see a dollop of Dicor on top of each one of them, and it's pretty deep. You just have to dive down in there with your screw gun, and there'll be 4 screws to take that out. Now the factory does put a screen on top up there, but they do not on the lower section. And some of you may have that's a reefer vent right there behind the camera. Some of you may have 2 of those on yours. That's your upper. Yes, ma'am. You talking about these things here? Yes, ma'am. They have a mosquito screen. On your refrigerator? Well, there's a screen built by the factory over the top. It's like a chimney. And that's a cap over the chimney is what that basically looks like up there. It's like a little chimney, and there's a cap over it. Well, that's the upper part. What I was suggesting is they even try to get there through that. The factory does put a screen up there, but they don't on the lower section. That's where they really try to come in, because that's where the propane and the burner tube is. Any other questions on that? Refrigerator. Behind that vent, you'll see wires and tubes and boards and a refrigerator like you've probably never seen. That also, just like your hot water heater, keep that cleaned out. A little shop vac does a great job. It'll get dusty in there. There's also a little drain tube that sticks out of that refrigerator lower vent. That little drain tube is when your refrigerator defrosts. At the end of a camping trip, there's a tray on the inside that lets that water drain outside. You want to make sure that it is draining outside and not back into the floor of your camper. It's just right behind the vents. Most of these units, you'll see a little white tip sticking out there. That one's sticking out some, or have a little clamp that's right at the edge of the vents where the water can drop out. Make sure that the end of it's opened up. There's a little plug to keep the dirt daubers from getting up in there. We've seen them get up in there and stop them up. And let's see here. The fluid in the burner and clean that. That's it on the refrigerator. Some of you have a generator in your motorhomes. Some of you have a generator you carry for your fifth wheel or travel trailer. Be sure and check the oil levels in it. On your generator also, about once a month it needs to be run with a load on it. And I mean run not just for 5 or 10 minutes. Run it and warm it up really well. And again, with a load on it. Generators, the jets and the carburetors, I guess they're so small, the fuel will gel up. And about the only thing you can do then is a new carburetor, $400. Yeah, and that usually doesn't work for some reason. I don't know if that's how Onan has them built or something, but we found it's best if that does happen, just to slap a new carb on it. And again, be sure and run it with a load on it until it completely warms up. I'd say a good hour. Some recommend 2 hours. Depends on how much time you have, but at least get it good and warm with a load on it. Your AC units. On the roof, when you check your roof, always check the shroud for the AC. That keeps water from coming in your camper. If you notice on the inside of your camper, you've got a plenum, which is the bottom side of the AC. Well, there's a hole through the roof. There's a foam gasket. Well, and then the cover sets over the AC. Well, if that cover has a hole in it, through the top, it'll get in that tray and can come in and leak, depending on where the hole in the shroud's at. But you always want to check for cracks in it. Dry rot, just like anything else. As far as that goes, that's about it on the roof. The motor shaft needs lubrication. Most of the units that you have and see now are self-contained. But, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it depends on where you store them and where you camp at. Seems like we have a lot of farmers that store them in their barns, and those seem to really get hit. Some people in the backyard, I've never had an issue with them. You never know, but for the little amount of money the bug screens cost, it's really worth it. It's about $300 to take a furnace out and clean it, put it all back together. Somewhere around there. Yes, sir. And I usually spray both directions. I take it and try to go out to force the stuff out and give it a good cleaning, and sometimes have to come back and actually work it back and forth. You'll see it when it starts spraying through nice and clean. It can be. I usually put a towel down on the inside, because inside in the plenum some water will come down, because you usually want to clean your tray out with a water hose at that time, because you know dust gets collected in there, and then the water condensation runs out and makes a little bit of mud in there. The product we use for the coils is called coil cleaner, and if you do that at home, there is one section you can't see without taking off a front sheet metal box. There'll be a set of coils in the back that we can all see visibly from the back of your AC unit. There's another set of coils in the front, and it's usually some 3/8 self-tapping screws to take the front of that off, and you'll see your condensing unit, and that also needs cleaning. Oh, you'll have to, yes sir. Yes sir. And be careful with the fins. You don't want to bend them up. That, you know, if they do get closed up, it'll quit functioning. I've seen hailstorms beat them flat. You know, they do make a comb to straighten them out. You can buy combs, yes sir. We comb them out quite regularly here. Is there any questions on the AC? Furnace, another spot for the bug screens like we talked about. Check for adequate ventilation. On the inside of your unit, you'll see a vent of some type. It's usually wood cabinetry that matches the interior of your cabinet, and it'll have some slots or vents in it. It'll be located directly inside the camper from where the outside of the furnace is. Keep that clear. That's kind of like its return. It actually operates, some of them operate a couple different ways, but always keep that clear so it can breathe well. There is no filters on the furnace, so there's nothing to worry about on that. If you take that vent on the inside down once a year, good vacuuming out and cleaning, inspect your connections. The connections for the ductwork are just twist on. Make sure that those are twisted in good and tight. Road vibrations and things like that, they'll kind of work loose. And that's about it on the furnace. Just to operate it, regular operation is about all you can do on the furnace. If you get into issues with that, the best thing to do is to go to your dealership or call one of the service writers. And definitely a bug screen on that one. Definitely. Brake fluids, power steering fluid, engine coolants, that was all in engine, windshield washer, belts. Exterior. Inspect the body and roof for separations and cracks. That is the most important thing of maintaining your camper, to me. Every one of them that finally goes to what we sell as is, or to the scrap yard, is generally because of water damage from the roof or a plumbing leak. But these roofs really need to be staying on top of. Our last seminar was on roofs. Here, use this right here once a year. Protect, it's a 2-part system. It's a cleaner and conditioner. The cleaner does a great job of cleaning this rubber roof. The conditioner keeps it soft and pliable, so it can give like it's supposed to and keeps it from drying out. The UV protectant, and that's really important. That goes on after step 1 has dried. Come back with step 2 with a little cheap sponge mop, a nice even coat, and that UV protectant, it gives it a protective film, and it lasts a good year. You can probably get by with it 2 years, but I would do it once a year. That'll stretch the life of the roof and save you a lot of headaches. Save you a lot of black streak problems too. It's like $50, and this will generally do most people's campers twice. that what spray can rubber seal stuff. Extreme tape. Was it called extreme tape? Yep. That's the same thing we use here for a patch. Just keep a close eye on it, because a patch does have a tendency to leak more than a whole roof would. When I use that extreme tape, I usually come back with some Dicor around the edge of it, just to kind of keep water from getting to the edge of that tape. But that extreme tape is a really good product. Like I say, it's probably the best stuff you can get. It's a handy product to have and keep in your camper, especially if you do a lot of traveling to state parks and things like that, getting in a campsite. Every year we get a bunch of them come in where they've hit limbs and just ripped the corner, just limb hit the corner of it, peeled it back right there. Well, if you're going to be there a week, it's no sense in it ruining your trip. If you've got some of that tape, cover it up till you can get back home, talk to your insurance company. Most of the time, insurance companies will pay for that. Just depends on how the damage occurred. They'll get you, and as you said, everything has to come off for a roof replacement. Everything from those side rails and everything on top of the roof, every bit of it. Awning has to come off. Well, that one it wouldn't have to, but I believe on yours it did. Any questions on that? Now on the roof, besides the actual membrane, which I have a piece here, y'all can come feel this piece here is only, I think, a year and a half old or so, but you can feel the difference in it and this. On the rubber roof, Dicor is the stuff you see all around your plumbing vents when you get up there and look where the front cap meets the roof and the rear. It's that white stuff up there. It will dry out over time. When the camper's going down the road, it will twist and turn. When something twists, something's going to give a little bit, and it's going to be that Dicor. So again, like we recommend here, every 3 months walking the roof. That means check it pretty good, don't just walk, because you will find little hairline cracks. The Dicor that we use for that is a self-leveling. If you see a little crack or something, use a caulking gun and just go right over the top of it. It'll fall into the crack. Now, when your Dicor gets to a certain point where it's dried out from the sun, you'll see a lot of deep cracks, several of them starting to come up. When you see that, it's time to start thinking about getting a peel and seal. That's removing the old Dicor and putting new. It's labor intensive. It takes a lot of time. Unless it is a job. If you're checking your roof right, you're going to find some issues up there. I have noticed on mine, the black tank, most of us will fill the black tank up, then we dump it. Well, when my black tank gets toward the full, the pipe in there that goes through the roof will go up and down for expansion and contraction. Well, I've heard it popping a time or two. So when I got on the roof, and nearly every time I get on my roof, it's cracked open, I guess from the movement. And as y'all know me, mine doesn't go down the road. But for those of you who do travel with yours, say you go to Florida and back, when you get home, be sure and walk and check the roof real good. Also check these corner beads down the sides. That has a tendency to twist during pulls. You'll see a lot of travel trailers kind of have damage down through this area in the front compartments, older ones. Well, that's from that front end twisting. And on the sides, you'll use silicone, just 100% silicone. If you see a crack open up here or around your city water or any of that, use silicone. Roof Dicor, side silicone. And that again is the most important thing of maintaining your camper. I can't tell you enough that is the life of it. All right, check the towing package hitch. Check your hitch work, is what it's saying. If you're a fifth wheel or travel trailer, have an equalizer hitch. Make sure everything's tightened up where it should be. Sometimes on the equalizer hitches, the little L brackets tend to walk. You know, they're in your manual that you got with them, it'll give you if it should be 27 to 32 inches. You know where to put that. Check that, or feel free to call us up here. Make sure the ball's good and tight, and the hitch is good and tight. Fifth wheel owners, lube your hitch. Make sure it's ready to go and latching properly. You got a Anderson Ultimate Connection. You don't have to do anything to yours. Did slick disc? Yeah, but on the actual hitch is what I'm talking about greasing. There should be, if you have a Kurt or a Demco or something like that, there'll be grease fittings to keep it greased. All right. Check all lighting, headlamps, taillights, turn signals before you leave out. Also, don't forget to kick the tires, as I call it. That's very important. We're seeing a lot of tire issues here lately. And before you head out, make sure and check your gas levels, your propane. Most of the propane tanks, you know, they have two sizes, a 20 and a 30 pounds is what you'll see. One of them's like you see with a barbecue bottle, everybody calls it. That's a 20-pound tank. It holds 4 gallons. The other one is a 30-pound. It holds 6 gallons. The 30-pound tanks will have a date on them. They're good for 12 years. The 20s are 10 years. When that date goes out, get you another tank, or you can get it recertified. And that pretty much covers maintenance of a unit. Yes, sir. I make sure and go over it. Yeah, it's the second part. Yeah, is a UV protectant. Even that part of it, put on the Diacor. It's not going to hurt a thing, especially the protectant part. It doesn't look so good, but some of the guys will even put that on this. Kind of makes a little yellowish film. You'll feel it when you put it on and it dries. It makes it slick. And again, once a year is really good to use that. You'd be surprised at how it can extend the life of a roof. And again, remember your warranties on roofs. They come with 10, 12-year warranty. The membrane does. This Diacor and all that other stuff does not. So that is something you really, as an owner, have to stay on top of. The materials that the campers are built out of just cannot handle water damage. Is there any other questions? Some people lubricate the main ball. I don't. It just makes a mess. Or and yours is the curved round one, the E2. Popping. And it's at the head side where it's galled in the metal. If you have time, run that up here. Let us check the settings on it. Make sure it's okay. We did it all here, didn't we? Yeah, just run it up here and holler at Denny or Donnie, and we'll recheck the settings and stuff on it and just make sure for you. But I'm glad you brought that up. Checking for wear is a really good idea on those travel trailers. Did you lubricate it at the L brackets? Yeah, okay. That's the reason I was asking. Yeah. They do make a glide plate for that part too, but it does take out some of the sway. On their website, they have some 3 different options, and the steel to steel is the most sway, if I remember correctly. Sway. Yeah, let us check that on the head to see why it's. Yeah, well, that's those arms sliding on those L brackets. It's normal to hear some popping and creaking, but if it's that part on the head, I'd like to see why it's doing that. That shouldn't have hurt a thing up there. Yeah, up there where yeah, those bolts are torqued for the right setting, and what it is, sometimes in the summertime, that black paint, especially when it's new, those things will get, really hot where you can't touch them. Well, that paint gets hot too, and trying to get the bars open to get them on is where we see some people having some issues. But yeah, I've had them come back in where people have loosened those up or what, but yeah, that messes up the function of the hitch. I believe yours is a square tube, isn't it? Yeah. That's a E4. That's the way I would run it. If everything's set properly, the only thing you should be wearing out is those little pins that go in the L bracket that are shaped like they're shaped like a L themselves and have a little quarter pin. Now those will wear out. We keep them on the shelf, extra little pack kits, but those will wear out. That's the only piece I know that'll wear out on that hitch. Yeah. Yes, sir. You'll notice that they'll get a funny little wrinkle in them when you'll see when it happens when you look at it. But I've seen guys 4 or 5 years, with the same set on. So it just depends on how you use your camper and where you pull it and how much you're turning and what you're doing with it. Was there any other questions? Everybody good? Well, if you have anything individually to ask, come up, and I guess we'll. That pretty much covers today's seminar.